Hi, it's Chris here again. There's been a lot of discussion or even controversy in the last few months over the impact or desirability of artificial intelligence capabilities put into image editing software. Frankly, it has become much easier for people to make substantial changes to an image, even if they don't have in-depth knowledge or experience of using the software. This in turn has led to some questioning whether the product of such manipulation is somehow valid or not, and whether such projects are really photography or art. I thought I'd add my own two pennyworth to the debate and also show how easy it is to take a single image and easily make very different versions of that image. There's been AI capability in image editing software for some time, e.g. Photoshop has its select subject or content aware capabilities, and Topaz Labs launched various AI products such as Sharpen AI, Denoise AI and Mask AI a couple of years ago. But what has brought all this to the forefront in the last year or so is Luminar 4 and its sky replacement tool, which has got a lot of publicity and enables people to replace a sky without knowledge of complex masking, which used to be required in Photoshop to achieve the same outcome. So much so that it's now become possible to see where the tool has been used, because a lot of people simply use one of the skies built into Luminar, and these skies are becoming familiar. Of course, it's now easy to photograph one's own skies and load these into Luminar, but I guess most people either don't know that or are too lazy to do so. Now even dear old Photoshop has recently introduced its own sky replacement tool, although it is more flexible than Luminar, as it gives you the layers and layer masks which you can play with to perfect the new sky. So, is this a good or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing that people can more easily edit their images, ignoring issues like everyone making the same adjustments, and get the end result they want. It remains the case that those photographers who are more skillful will continue to take better photos, and those that have more experience and skill at using image editing software will continue to produce better end products. But, if you like, sophisticated AI software will raise the minimum level of output for those with less experience. So what about images which are changed very substantially from their state out of camera? We have seen various controversies where entries to photo competitions have been disqualified because changes made in editing software were too substantial, and it has reached a stage where some competitions or even journalistic entities ask to see the original RAW file to confirm the extent of modifications. Of course, photography has a long issue of amending, or in film terms, developing images. It's just that it's much easier to do so on a computer than in the darkroom. And where might one draw the line? Famous film images which had contrast tweaked via dodge and burn, is that just a mild version of a complete sky replacement? Advertising and fashion photography has long used techniques to make products or models look more perfect than in real life. My own view is that anything is fair game as long as there is no dishonesty or misrepresentation. Obviously, things like journalism, which purports to show the truth, should not manipulate a published image beyond simple things like contrast or sharpening, and maybe cropping as long as a significant element of the image is not removed to change the nature of the image, e.g. like political images in totalitarian states where people no longer in favour were airbrushed out. But substantial changes to personal images are fine as long as they are disclosed and the photographer does not try and claim the image is as taken. Clearly the more extreme changes are probably obvious to the viewer, but there will be a grey area in the middle where substantial editing changes are not obvious. To illustrate my point, I'm going to create three very different versions of one of my images. So here we are in Lightroom Classic with an image taken at Lake Windermere, which for those that do not live in the UK is in the Lake District in northwest England up towards the Scottish border. The image is nothing special, but it was taken at the end of September on a typical English still autumn day with some mist and fog. This is the image basically straight out of camera with just lens geometry corrections and a slight tweak to contrast but nothing else. I have created three virtual copies to edit the alternative versions. So here's the first one, which you can take into the develop module by hitting the D key, and we want to increase the temperature to 7513. We'll leave the tint at +6. Highlights -85. Shadows plus 74, so we can see into the dark bits of the boat. Whites plus 32, blacks minus 14. And then to get the misty look, we'll move clarity to minus 100 and dehaze to minus 45. That gives a very misty look. Spot of vibrance 20 plus 21 and saturation plus 10. So there we are. That's the warm version of the image. Not at all difficult to do. So now we'll take the next virtual copy into the develop module to make the night image. So first we'll want to cool it off by reducing the temperature to 5162. We'll leave the tint, and then to darken the image we want minus 1.84 stops in exposure. Small boost to contrast, plus 17. Highlights, minus 56. Shadows, plus 25, so we don't lose the dark parts of the boats. We'll leave whites as they are. Blacks, minus 35. Then to slightly increase the misty look, we'll reduce clarity to minus 32 and boost saturation to 44. Now we need to change the sky, so we'll go into the graduated filter using the M key and then hold the Shift key to make sure you constrain it to horizontal and set it just above the level of the lake. Press the Alt key to reset the previous settings. So we'll now increase the temperature to 15, the tint to 13, further darken the sky, minus 0.65 of exposure, a little contrast boost of 3, reduce the blacks to minus 34, another reduction in clarity to minus 32, and boost the saturation to 44. We then need to reduce the effect of this by setting luminance range mask and bringing the first slider up to 64 to remove the very dark bits. Need to slightly feather it, and that looks fine. So we come out of the graduated filter and go into the adjustment brush using the K key, temperature to 32, exposure to 3.07, and then just gently paint in the windows to switch the lights on the boats. And there we are, that's the night image completed. So now go on to the final image, which we'll do in Luminar 4. So click Edit in Luminar 4, choose Edit to Copy with Lightroom Adjustments and Edit. This will open Luminar 4. So now the image is loaded. We'll first go into the Light tool and increase temperature to 27, tint to 9, smart contrast to 41. We'll then go into AI Enhance and increase AI Accent to plus 54. And then to warm it up, we'll go into the landscape enhancer and increase golden hour to +44. We'll then go into the Creative tab, Sky Replacement, and choose Dramatic Sky 2. Then we need to do a bit of blending, so we'll do horizon blend to +126, horizon position to +2. We'll leave Sky Global at 30, then go into Advanced Settings. Close gaps will increase to 12. Sky Local to 136. And then we need to warm up the sky, so sky temperature to +52. And brighten the sky a little, sky exposure to +10. So we finish with sky replacement. We'll now go into the Pro tab and choose Adjustable Gradient. We'll set the orientation. We want much less feathering. And then we'll move it, the orientation to just above the level of the lake. Then in the top, we'll adjust exposure to -10, contrast to 65, highlights to -17, warmth to +11, and vibrance to +15. And then for the bottom, we'll reduce exposure to -42, contrast to 25, shadows to +59 so we can see into the boats, highlights to -14, slight increase in warmth to 2, and vibrance to 11. And there we are. That's the final version of the image done. So we just need to export it back into Lightroom. And there we are. That's the 4 images. They all are rather different. Let me know what you think. So here's the first out of camera image, the warm hazy image, the night image with lights on the boats, and finally the off the wall sky replacement image, which is completely different. Many thanks for watching.